Former Governor Andrew Cuomo's possible return to New York politics. I want to bring in someone who knows New York City and the former governor very well. Former New York City Mayor Bill DeBlasio, who served the city from 2014 to 2021. He joins us live tonight here on Top Story. Mayor DeBlasio, it's great to have you here. I'm going to be blunt. You didn't have the best relationship with Andrew Cuomo. We're going to get to that
breaking news
in a moment. But I do want to ask you, you know politics very well and you know the city very well. Is he going to be the next city mayor?
I think this race has just begun. I truly do. There's a really powerful poll out a few days ago. Mike Blasio, who's a national pollster, worked for John Fetterman, Raphael Warnock, and others, pointing out that this is a very unusual candidacy, that Andrew Cuomo has massive negatives. Obviously, the nursing home scandal during COVID, where so many people lost their life, questions about whether he lied in Congress to a congressional committee about that. Obviously, the harassment of 13 women. These are really powerful and unusual in the sense of a single individual, a single candidate having all of these negatives on them. And what the Blasio poll showed is when you add that up and people know about it, they start to change their mind quickly. So I think it's fair to say this race has just begun.
Flip side to that, massive name recognition in the city in a race that may have several people run in the Democratic nomination. And two, for his supporters, someone who's seen as a reformer. Do you think people will remember that over those negatives?
Well, every campaign, as you know, has its own character. And I think what's going to be very interesting is the juxtaposition with Donald Trump, who obviously is the #1 story in America right now. Our New York City voters, who are a particularly progressive, aware set of voters, how are they going to feel about someone who has multiple allegations of sexual harassment when that's something that also plagued Donald Trump, for example?
Played out in the courts here in Manhattan.
Exactly. Right? What's that juxtaposition going to look like? How are they going to feel about someone who has a lot of scandals attached after what's happened with Mayor Adams? I think these are big open questions. I am not for a moment going to take away political skill from Andrew Cuomo. He has a lot of skill, has a lot of experience. But I think what you're going to see is one candidate, maybe a couple candidates, will really emerge as the alternative, and then it's really when the ballgame starts.
What do you think about Eric Adams? I mean, do you think he's going to run on the Democratic ticket? Can he win on the Democratic ticket? Will he win the primary?
It's very tough. I think he had a chance after the charges were sort of dropped by the Justice Department to reset the equation. I think it was very unfortunate that, for example, he went on Fox and Friends with Trump's immigration official that really, Homeland, who really, I think, set a tone that hurt Adams a lot. It's always too early to tell with an election 4 months away. But I think that was a decisive moment that set him back.
Did he pass the test? Did he make New York City safer? Did he make the subway safer? Is the trash being picked up? I mean, does he sort of mark any of those boxes, Eric Adams?
You know what's interesting? Mayor Adams, aside from the scandals, the legal issues, clearly would have a case to make. I mean, the city has gotten safer. We have substantially continued our recovery from COVID. I was obviously mayor when COVID was raging. And it's quite amazing how far New York City has come since then. So sure, he has a case to make. But I think the last few weeks have been really tough for him.
Let's go back to Governor Cuomo. I want to give viewers a sense of your relationship with him. Let's take a trip back down memory lane if you can. Back in 2014, things were beautiful. This was weeks after your inauguration. Cuomo said, "I don't have a better political friend than Bill DeBlasio." But you both quickly battled over universal pre-K, right? That became a thing. And in 2015, you gave an interview after a disagreement with him on a tax credit plan. Here's what you said.
He suggested it was not viable when everyone knew it was viable. And he actually helped to encourage opposition to it. Now, I find that to be a lack of leadership, because here was an opportunity to actually get something done for people. What I found was he engaged in his own sense of strategies, his own political machinations. And what we've often seen is if someone disagrees with him openly, some kind of revenge or vendetta follows.
So, revenge, vendettas. You accused him of bullying. Do you see this happening in this race? Should voters be concerned? What's your take?
Yeah, I think what it comes down to is, with any leader, are you about your own political needs or are you about the people? And that's going to be a big issue in this race. People are going to look at things like what happened with the nursing homes, and that's going to be an issue. Was he doing what he did in the nursing homes and then covering it up because he wanted to sell a book? Was he doing something right for the people? These are going to be big questions. So I think in the end, I believe there's such cynicism about politicians for good reason, that's going to be a real test for him to prove he's something different.
We only have a minute left. We also live in an era in politics where people have short attention spans and their memories sometimes aren't that long. And we've seen that with several politicians in the modern age. And I just wonder if all the things you stated, people will forget about Andrew Cuomo and they'll remember somebody who, as his supporters will say, was steadfast, strong leadership, dedicated to public service, or will it be everything you're bringing up?
Two easy points. One, I think if it wasn't a campaign, you'd probably be right, but there is going to be a campaign, and a number of candidates will raise this, and the media will raise it, and there'll be investigations, there'll be new revelations. Point one. Point two, the juxtaposition with Trump. The story in America, Donald Trump, my way or the highway, bullying people, trying to run over the democratic process. Now you're starting to see a backlash. You're going to see a backlash, particularly in New York, to it. How is that going to juxtapose with what Cuomo brings to the table? I think that's a big X factor.
Mayor Bill DeBlasio, great to have you here in Top Story. Great conversation.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.